So I want to tell you how HeartThread started, because it actually is a pretty cool story. I trained in metaphysics for the first time, the first year, in 1979, and I trained with a woman named Patricia Hayes. So I went through a lot of different courses with her to learn about metaphysics, because I was a nurse and I realized that nursing needed the spirit. And so we put together medicine and metaphysics, and we have holistic health, right? And so holistic health became my way of working with my idea that I wanted to be a quote-unquote healer. When I was a child, I wanted to be a teacher, a singer, and a healer, and actually I've ended up being all three, so it's really cool, because if you get off the mainstream and create your own reality, you can do anything you want. So that's what I've been doing for like 37 years. So I quit nursing. I worked for the Heart Association as a stress management consultant, and I created an actual program with the Fairfield County, Connecticut American Heart Association first stress management program called Time Out for Number One. And it was basically the first program that allowed the Heart Association to even think that stress had any relationship to heart disease. It was a factor. Stress was a factor in heart disease. So the Heart Association wasn't aware of that at the time, or at least we're not speaking about it. And then I worked for the American Lung Association and helped people quit smoking. And I kind of made my way, into private practice from nursing, and then I quit nursing, and I began to work with individuals. So for a long time, I've had this idea that there's a very simple way for all parts of us to come into union, to be strong and clear, and to have authority in the world to live who we are. And I've always had that idea. And I've worked with the body, I've worked with the emotion, I've worked with the mind, I've worked with the spirit. And HeartThread does all of those things. I know Donna Carroll asked last night, she says, what level are we working at in this process? And we're working with all of them. And the facilitator isn't deciding that. We are doing it with the individual so that their consciousness is guiding us. And that's a really important process to think about, is as a facilitator, our most important objective is to be present to the moment, to hear what's happening in the individual with us, and to report that accurately, and to make sure that there is a synergy in our energies at every single moment that we're doing the session. So we don't loop out at all. We don't try to figure out at all. We stay. If we have a challenge or a question, we breathe into our heart and we start again. We keep that conscious connection with where are we? And that important connection allows for there to be established what's called scaffolding. Okay, so every single sentence the person will say in response to what we hear from the body and invite them to share resets the vibration in their body. It actually opens them to the opportunity to hear their actual authentic voice. And we were talking this weekend, all week I've been doing some programs, and so I'm going to repeat myself a little bit for those of you who are attending those programs. But the biologist Bruce Lipton talks about the fact that when we're born and up until the age of 7, we actually are like sponges. And everything in our environment just comes in and becomes part of who we are. And we don't discern what we want and what we don't want. It's just there. And as it comes in, there's judgment in it, and duality in it, and conditional love in it, and experiences we observe that are frightening, that are maybe untenable sometimes, maybe invasive. And we're all in that young space absorbing all the time. And the discernment is trying to balance with innocence. Like, well, I thought it was going to be like this, I thought my light was going to be able to do this. I thought everything was going to be able to be this way. That's why I came. And then the world starts to, kind of pour its pain on all of us, right? So the idea here is that we have to find a way to go underneath, around, through, or above or below all of that patterning, so we can see it as patterning, we can understand it doesn't belong to us, and we can have a way to release it painlessly, quickly, easily, and deeply. And because we know that healing requires us to shift things that have in some way kept us limited, truncated, constricted. We know if we're going to fly, we can't have our wings all wrapped around us. We have to open them out. So there has to be a way to open them out. And so HeartThread, in my opinion, and in our experience, is a way to provide that vehicle for individuals simply, effectively, and authentically. And so being authentic is something that each of us will work with this week. And how do we receive, how do we hear, how do we respond from a place in ourselves that has no personality in it or doesn't need anything from it? We're just present. And that takes some practice. Those of us who have done a lot of healing work, we've already worked through a lot of that. And then some people will just find, oh, okay, I thought I needed to do that, or I thought I needed to say that. So some of that will get hashed out this week, and then in the sessions that we'll do subsequent to the trainings. And we'll work with each of you as much as you want, maybe more than you want. And all of the decisions that we make are joint, So choosing mentors to work with you, being in a relationship with that mentor and with this field and with Karen and Raphael who are living in this area, and just knowing that everything that we do has a purpose. It's been time tested and approved by the cosmos, and by this being that I started to tell you about before I took this great detour, named John Henry.